Good morning. Today we're going to take a look at the Russell 2000, XRP, a little bit of Bitcoin, and some Sigma. All right, so checking in here on the Russell 2000. I popped over here today just to kind of check to see what we were getting. And we had our breakout with a pullback, and now, hopefully, we're actually seeing a fairly aggressive continuation. And if this can start breaking into new highs here for the Russell, that bodes well for the cryptocurrencies. So all eyes on the Russell to see if this can actually make it past the supply region. It would be really good to see clearing of a new high of 2480. I'm sorry, a new local high of 2481. And if we can get that high going, sustain it, and continue, this breakout could be absolutely epic for the Russell. And with that should come risk-on behaviors, which is your cryptocurrencies. So scrolling down then, and we jump over to XRP as one of the risk-on assets, we have a couple things that we're playing with right now. So got down to -3 deviations, filled the majority of the gap, did it with a potential 5-wave completion, but there's a chance that this guy still flops all over the place and gives us a hard time moving forward, because at minimum there's a wave 2, and we've got a large volume gap right here, a large volume gap right there. So we've got two big gaps that are showing on the chart that would give us a potential headache to the downside for a correction. So checking in then now on our local price action of what we've been doing, a couple tools that we're going to use here just to kind of get an idea of what we're looking at. So you have a breakdown that appears to be impulsive. So we have a 5-wave move to the downside. Also could be seen as an possibly an A, B, C, with this being a kind of a middle zone. And if that's the case, I feel like we need to get back up to this 231.64 number to finish out a 5th wave. So we might do an ABC down and then an ABC up and get up to 231.50, squeeze up to that level, and then close out the late longs, late shorts, and ultimately get rid of those guys, and then roll over and do an ABC down, or possibly even a more aggressive capitulation that takes us all the way down to the 173 or lower region. So, but 192 seems about right. That would be pretty good area there to re-enter. So we'll just kind of watch price action to see if we can get, excuse me, a move to the move back down in here to allow everybody to reaccumulate one last time before we go. So it's either going to be a flat, which would be a structure where we end up doing an ABC down. Here we go, let's see here. Let's do it this way. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see it flat here. Wow, that was horrible. All right, let's try this again. So we go with an A, B, C leg, right? And we go and do this flat view, and then we end up doing an ABC up again. And we grind up to the top of the range. Then we have another cascading 5 waves down, and that 5 waves down could be aggressive. That takes us all the way back down into this region. So that's one thought that we could do for this corrective move. We could also just have the beginning of the 5-wave impulse, and we get a short one here, right? Because if this is viewed as being, instead of a 3-wave, we actually end up having a 5-wave move, right? And the crossing of waves 4 and 1 though makes me think that it's not. So we'll just kind of see, but it looks pretty structurally good there. So if we end up having a 5-wave move to the downside, then we would do an ABC back up, kind of for a small retrace, maybe up to this region here of 225, then a continuation for another ABC lower to kind of work off of that. So now, additionally, we see that we have some resistance and +3 deviations that are kind of finding confluence on this VWAPs. So how do we use the VWAPs tool? So the VWAP tool, you're going to go over and you're going to go to measurements, and it's called this anchored VWAP right here, okay? I changed my settings around, so I'm showing all 3 bands, and then I've also made it so that the colors are showing in this style, because it looks kind of ugly in my view otherwise. So I do all those types of things, make those changes, get the colors going, and that's been pretty helpful for getting levels. And so you can see we hit -3 deviation, closed a portion of today's gap, and maybe squeeze back up to the top of the range throughout the remainder of the day, because we hit 64% of the day range, and this would take us up to the remainder of the day range here. So yes, that's kind of what I'm looking at here for XRP. I think still that this 231 level is in the cards, and then we've got to close these two gaps to the downside with a corrective, either ABC down, a flat where we just go cascading down, or a zigzag structure for a larger wedge pattern that X-Force was looking at, and that would be pretty tricky, where you would end up moving back up into this range, and then you would end up having let's see here, something like this. It'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Ugh, absolutely ugly. Just getting us all the way down here, just ripping everybody to shreds with trying to get their entries and exiting and longing and exiting and longing. So let's not do that. But this could be the case because we would have a 1, 2, 3, 4, even though this 4 is looking really, really aggressive, and we may cross into 1 if we get up in this region. So I'm hoping for just the ABC and we're all finished, but this thing could happen, and that would be just absolutely disgusting, and it may. So we'll just keep that in mind. So liquidity wise, we have liquidity right where that level is on the 12-hour, which would take us up to the 231 if we squeeze all the way up into that region. So I expect the squeeze to make its way back up in there. And then Sigma is showing some strength. Yay! We've got some buys coming in. People are seeing the project and starting to accumulate more. And the sellers are getting exhausted finally. So we're seeing some good bouncing off the lows here. So far, a higher high has been set, and we're starting to see the percentage returns just moving to the prior all-time high. You're looking at a 13x, and then if you move all the way up to the 1618, which is right there, we're going to actually end up looking at a 95x. So that would be absolutely epic to see that type of thing. So yeah, so I could see us getting to 77 million pretty easily, especially with XRP holding up so well as it has been. So all right, that's how we're looking at the crypto market this morning, and we'll check in tomorrow.